Knowledge, they say, is power. Well, no one is doubting this position right from the colonial days. But in contemporary world, just knowing how to read and write might not only put food on your table, but meeting up with other financial demands might be difficult. Here I'm talking about being self-employed and not just an employee. One has to get multiple streams of income to face the storms of life. And to be on that stream, you have to be in the stream of skills to skill up in meeting those needs. Panorama today beams its searchlight on the need to be multi-talented instead of just sitting down with that your monthly paid job. And with me in the studio to discuss that is Mr. Samuel Chuku. We'll be talking about that much later. This is NTA Panorama. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Ruth Aguele. Welcome to your Midday Tonic. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has sanctioned some officials over the harassment of a female candidate wearing hijab to the examination hall. The female candidate who wrote the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination at the Bafuto Institute in Ejigbo, Lagos, was said to have been asked to remove her head cover during the accreditation process before being allowed into the examination hall. A statement by the head of public affairs of the board, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, says the board regrets the incident. The statement adds that upon investigation, it discovered that the incident or others in the past were not linked to any of its examination guidelines, but rather a product of the misplaced priority of some of the board's accredited partners or officials who claimed ignorance of its guidelines on accreditation. The board assures Nigerians that the issue will be properly investigated so as to prevent a reoccurrence. The people of Badaria area in Kebbi State, Birnin Kebbi, were thrown into mourning when 8 Almajiri students of Tabayakian Dutsi Islamia School lost their precious lives in a landslide while excavating sand meant for construction. Usman Abdullahi Shehu has been speaking with some eyewitnesses.
It is a usual thing for students of Almajiri schools to work for their teachers in Kebbi State. It was, however, a black Saturday for the preparator of an Islamic school in Badaria, Birnin Kebbi, Malam Don Umma, who had asked some children from his Islamia to climb a nearby hill and get sand for a neighbor when the unexpected sad incident occurred. The students were excavating below the hill when a large chunk of the hill began to slide down on 10 of them, killing 8 while 2 sustained injuries. The 2 students who survived sustained various degrees of injuries, including fractures.
We were here reading when we suddenly heard a loud sound, and I was informed on the unfortunate incident.
Faruku Abubakar and Abubakar Aliyu, both students of the school, were eyewitnesses.
By the time we arrived here, we can only see a hand of our colleague, but they were all covered in the sand. It was only when we started digging that we saw others. They were all not moving and dead when we removed them from the sand.
Their lifeless body were removed from the rubbles and were rushed to Sahaya Specialist Hospital, Birnin Kebbi, where they were confirmed dead. The funeral prayer was later conducted and they were buried according to Islamic rites. Meanwhile, the Kebbi State government has supported the families of the deceased with 2 million naira each. The Kebbi State government also promised to take measures to ban excavation of the hill for construction purposes.
With this unfortunate incident, government will secure this place. We will not even allow people to go closer.
This hill behind me is where the unfortunate incident happened, and the people around here say such of an incident have never happened here before. It is a place where they usually excavate sand to build their houses.
Quite unfortunate there. The world is moving forward and no one is waiting, even when programs on skills acquisition are moving progressively. Now, parents are making extra efforts to ensure their children acquire extra skills beyond the classrooms to be self-reliant after their moments in school. This is because the labor market is getting more busier by the day. Employment opportunities getting more scanty. Realizing this has informed the National Youth Service Corps to incorporate skills acquisition section in a 3-week orientation program to prepare the Corps members on the challenges ahead. But what more needs to be done to ensure that young people acquire skills acquisition, especially in a changing world that we are in? We have in the studio to speak further on that Mr. Samuel Chukwu. He's a lawyer and a training consultant. Thank you very much, Mr. Chukwu, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon, dear Nigerians.
You're welcome. When we look at a contemporary society today, everything is changing, you agree with me?
That's true.
And people no longer rely on those jobs. You even ask, where are the jobs? So skills acquisition, having multiple streams of income, what readily comes to mind?
Okay, that's a very, very brilliant question. Like you rightly mentioned, the world is moving. And one of my favorite quotes is by the American philosopher Eric Hoffman. He says, "In times of change, the learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists." We must acknowledge the fact that the world is changing. Yeah. And because Nigeria is blessed with, when we talk of potential, we're not talking of the anthills of the savannah or the mines of petroleum in the Niger Delta. We're talking of the capacity of the Nigerians, the Nigerian people, to exhibit vast human potential. One way to make good use of this potential is to deploy our skills. For a long time, we'll be talking of employment. But when it comes to skills, we're talking of deployment. And this is where the role of skills acquisition comes into play. And one thing we should note is this: skills are not useful if they are not applied correctly. So that's why skills are most important.
I like the last word.
Yeah.
Skills are not useful if they're not applied.
Very true.
Which brings me to my next question.
Yes.
When a young person, is thinking of acquiring a skill,
yes,
to have that multiple streams of income, that's for someone who is lucky to have a stable job.
Yes.
Now, looking at people who don't even have those stable jobs, what kind of skills, would you recommend to young people?
Very brilliant question still. The truth is this: in order to know what skill to apply, we need to ask ourselves this pertinent question: where is the world moving to? Because you could acquire a certain skill in an area that is not relevant. That is not to say that skills are irrelevant. If you acquire a skill that is not relevant to the direction the world is moving, what happens is that you become redundant. And I'll give you a very good example. Let us take a rewind to, let's say, 100 years ago, in the year 1924. What were the skills that were relevant? You had skills in the industrial sector. Then we did not have social media. So skills like digital marketing never existed. A person who lived at that time would have acquired skills that were pertinent to that time. So that brings us to the contemporary times. What skills are relevant? And that answers the question of where is the world moving to. You can see that the world is in a digital space.
I was going to say that.
Very true. And we're moving into the field of artificial intelligence, data analysis. Now, that is not to say that the more traditional skills are irrelevant. But for young people who are aspiring to give their own quota to the world and to nation building, let us look at the relevant skills. And I'll give you a few examples. I've mentioned data analysis. I've mentioned the ability to understand and utilize artificial intelligence. Then, of course, one of my favorites, public speaking. And that's because no matter how much the world evolves, young people must learn how to project themselves with competence and charisma.
Indeed, and I know people who are catching out from public speaking,
especially
when they go out to do some, empowerment programs.
That's true.
There are also other areas, digital literacy, you want to put it, is good, but there are other aspects. Entrepreneurs lead the world, Mr. Chukwu.
Very true.
And if you want to look at the entrepreneurial spirit of Nigerians, we have a lot of skills people can acquire. What would be other recommendations beyond the digital aspect?
Very true. Of course, like I rightly mentioned, you have some certain areas that are still relevant. One very good skill, and people don't view it as a skill, but it's entrepreneurship. And that's because an entrepreneur must possess certain other skills. I remember during my NYC days, we had, like you rightly mentioned, something called the Said, where young people are taught these skills. But I noticed a little lacuna. Many young people learn these skills only to go and seek for government jobs. Now, government jobs are good because the wheels of governance must keep on churning. But like you rightly mentioned, if you look at the Forbes list of the 10 richest people in the world, one thin thread that they have in common is the fact that they are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs have the ability to fast-track the process of human civilization.
Exactly.
And I'm someone that believes in the potency of young Nigerians. Let's take the example of the young man that just broke the Guinness Book of World Record. He's a Nigerian. The young lady last year that did the cookathon, that's a Hilda Batsi, right? She's a Nigerian. It shows us that there is something about the Nigerian spirit. So for young people like myself, I throw this challenge to us. Let us focus on certain skills. And I'm careful not to enumerate specific ones because your area of interest might seem insignificant to the world, but that might be the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle that we need.
Because what works for A might not work for B.
Exactly.
So just look what is more passionate for you and go for it. And just before I let you go, they say catch them young, right? I see a lot of young people, especially children rather, who are already imbibing that entrepreneurial spirit. In schools, they're being taught, you know, certain skills. What would you advise parents, you know, to encourage their children more to get involved in these skills, and how can schools break the chain and expand the scope?
Very, very good question. One of the greatest blessings I have had are my parents. And that was because I'm a lawyer today, but there was a point in my life when I wanted to become a medical doctor. And when I decided not to read medicine, my parents did not discourage me. In fact, they encouraged me. And thinking back, we can never underscore the role of parenting. Now, it's true parents want to say, oh, I am mama doctor, mama lawyer and all. But you never can tell. That child that was playing on the football field has become Victor Osimhen. And he has not only put his surname on the world map, he has put an entire country on the global map. Encourage children. Give them the right guidance. The truth is this, as the Holy Book says, when you train a child in the way that child should go, when that child grows old, that child will become a big shade that everyone will want to nest under. So do not discourage your children. Guide them properly, discipline them where necessary, but most importantly, commit them into the hands of the Almighty and guide them in the right path. And the results will surprise you and generations unborn.
Indeed. Now you're becoming a preacher, Mr. Samuel Chukwu. Thank you so much for sharing that thoughts with us. And for me, tailoring is one skill I will never let go.
Whoa, interesting.
Thank you for your time on Panorama. Let's take a break. We're back. Stay tuned.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Thank you for staying tuned. Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa has been declared winner of the All Progressives Congress governorship primaries in Ondo State. The final outcome of the exercise was officially announced in Akure by the chairman of the election committee and governor of Kogi State, Usman Ododo, following the collation of results from 17 out of the 18 local government areas of Ondo State. The election committee chairman said Governor Ayedatiwa polled 48,569 votes to defeat 15 other aspirants who contested the primary election, which was concluded on Sunday after the election committee declared the primary inconclusive on Saturday. According to Governor Ododo, Former Deputy Speaker of the State, Mayowa Akinfolarin, came second with 15,343 votes, while Chief Olushola Uke secured the third position with 14,865 votes. Speaking before the party's electoral officers who presented the results from the 17 council areas, Governor Ododo urged the other aspirants to be loyal to APC and support the winner towards ensuring that the party wins the governorship election in November this year. And still talking politics, Governor Basi Otu says the All Progressives Congress in the South Zone is not relenting in efforts aimed at increasing the number of states in the zone governed by the party. The governor said this during a meeting convened by executives of the All Progressives Congress in Calabar. Justina Etim reports.
The closed-door meeting was an avenue to deliberate and fashion out ideas to strengthen the party in the South-South zone, as well as tackle other issues affecting the party. Fielding questions from journalists, Governor Tu assured to align with President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda to deliver the dividends of democracy to the people.
We all know what the renewed hope agenda is, which is, of course, what I've been preaching here also. And our own, you know, is the people's first. So people's first plus renewed hope means quantum progress. We needed to come together as a family to put heads together in order to deepen APC in the South-South.
Vice Chairman, All Progressives Congress, South-South Zone, Victor Gaydom says discussions in the meeting were also targeted towards enhancing the chance of the party to emerge victorious in the forthcoming Edo governorship poll.
It's a family meeting, a family union, a family discussion, and is intended to better our own party and reposition the party towards success in the region.
Though Cross River is the only state governed by the APC in the South-South zone, APC chieftains are optimistic that soon the whole of South-South will be captured by APC. In Calabar, Justina Etam, NTA News.
The Federal High Court Abuja has dismissed the suit seeking the disqualification of Bayelsa State Deputy Governor Lawrence Erujakbo from contesting the November 2023 governorship election. Justice Emeka Nwete delivered the ruling on the suitability of the Deputy Governor of Bayelsa State to contest as running mate to Governor Diodiri of the PDP during the 2023 Bayelsa governorship election held on 11th November 2023. The Dio, who contested for the second term, eventually won the poll. But in the run-up to that election, a certain Bayelsan indigene, Blessing Clement Azibanagbal, approached the Federal High Court Abuja and sought to have the deputy governor disqualified on the basis that he allegedly used falsified documents to contest the poll and that he did not present his secondary school certificate for the poll. The import of the suit is to ensure that the PDP would be deemed to have had no governorship candidate in the November Bayelsa election, since Governor Diri and the Deputy Governor ran on a joint ticket in line with the Constitution and Electoral Act 2022. The defendant in his response had raised several preliminary objections that the plaintiff filed the suit on October 26, long after the expiration of the 14 days allowed by law to file a pre-election matter. Therefore, it is statute barred. Also, he has no locus standi, not being an aspirant in the PDP primary election held in May that threw up Diri and his deputy. Presiding Judge, Justice Emeka Nwete, upheld the preliminary objection of the deputy governor that the matter was statute barred, having been filed long after the primary election had been held. Dismissing it for lacking in merit, the court also held that the deputy governor had met statutory requirements for contesting elections. To other news, after months of detailed planning and background work, the committee driving the presidential compressed natural gas initiative is set to deliver on President Tinubu's vision and promise to reduce the burden of increase in the palm price on the masses. The first set of critical assets for deployment and launch ahead of the first anniversary of the Tinubu's administration on May 29 is now ready. Let's get the details.
The federal government, as part of the many interventions to reduce the burden of increase in pump price on the masses, provided 100 billion naira, which is part of the 500 billion palliative budget, to purchase 5,500 CNG buses and tricycles, 100 electric buses, and over 20,000 CNG conversion kits, alongside spurring the development of CNG refilling and electric charging stations. Bayo Ononuga, Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, says already the committee has delivered some major foundational reforms to enable the new CNG and electric vehicles future the President promised. After the removal of fuel subsidy on May 29, 2023, President Bola Tinubu launched the Presidential CNG Initiative in October last year to deliver cheaper, safer, and more climate-friendly energy. The CNG initiative was designed to deliver compressed natural gas, especially for mass transit. With necessary tax and duty waivers approved by President Tinubu in December 2023, the PCNGI committee is partnering with the private sector to deliver the promise. The private sector has responded with over $50 billion in actual investments in refueling stations, conversion centers, and mother stations. Also, a safety policy document on 80 standards and regulations for operators has been delivered and approved to ensure CNG conversions are done safely. The vision to get at least 1 million natural gas-propelled vehicles on our roads by 2027 will mark a major energy transition in our country's transportation industry. The use of more expensive diesel and PMS will gradually be phased out when many vehicles, including trucks, run on natural gas, which our nation has in abundance in at least 30 out of 36 states. Over 600 buses are targeted for production in the first phase that will be accomplished this year. Thousands of conversion kits for petrol-powered buses and taxis that want to migrate to CNG are also ready with CNG cylinders. The federal government intends to provide them at subsidized rates, especially to commercial vehicle drivers, to bring down the cost of public transportation. The PCNGI is working with agency partners and set to deliver 100 conversion workshops and 60 refueling sites spread across 18 states before the end of this year.
All right, next will be sports update.
Enugu Rangers suffered a setback in their Nigeria Premier Football League title bid on Sunday as they lost 2-0 away to Rivers United in their matchday 31 encounter in Port Harcourt. Kano Pillars were the biggest winners of the weekend as they hammered Gombe United 4-0, with Plateau United recording a 1-0 home win over Remo Stars. In other results, Lobby Stars and Bendel Insurance drew goalless. Kwara United beat Aqua United 1-0, with Niger Tornadoes handing Doma United a 2-0 loss. With the results, the top three teams in the league remain unchanged, with Plateau United moving into the fourth spot. In England, Liverpool got their Premier League title bid back on track as they recorded a 3-1 win over Fulham. Aston Villa came from behind to beat Bournemouth 3-1 at Villa Park to strengthen their grip on the Champions League spot. Crystal Palace thrashed West Ham United 5-2, with Everton recording a contentious 2-0 win over Nottingham Forest to pull clear of the relegation zone. Meanwhile, rivals Manchester United and Manchester City will face off in the final of the English FA Cup for the second time in 2 seasons after United endured an embarrassing day in the office to claim a 4-2 win on penalties over Coventry City, who came from 3 goals down to level scores at 3-3, forcing the game to extra time and penalties. Finally, Olympic champion Perez Jepchirchir stomped to victory in a women's only world record time of 2 hours, 16 minutes and 16 seconds in the London Marathon. World record holder Tigist Assefa Magdalena Alemo, also of Ethiopia, and Kenya's Joycelyn Jepkosgei also beat the previous women's only record of 2 hours, 17 minutes and 1 second set by Mary Kentani in 2017. Kenya's Alexander Mutiso Moyao held off distance running great Kenenisa Bekele to win the men's race in 2 hours, 4 minutes and a second. With sports update, Badi Adeleye, NTA News.
And that brings us to conclude Panorama. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Agowele. Have a beautiful day ahead.